Buenas pessoal, aqui é a Dorna. E eu tô aqui hoje com o Maldraxxus, porque ele tá chato, querendo atenção hoje. Pra fazer, como eu tinha prometido, né, em uma das lives, o Thalesinha e Vitel lançaram um vídeo intitulado O Plano de 5.000 de QI do Carcereiro e por que as pessoas estão bravas e erradas sobre ele. E tá tendo muita repercussão sobre esse vídeo. Então, como eu fiz essa promessa, eu estou aqui cumprindo ela. Eu vou assistir o vídeo, fazer um react e fazer comentários sobre eles, né? Então, sem mais delongas, né? Vamos lá para o vídeo. Já deixei separado aqui na tela. Primeiramente, eu gostaria de falar uma coisa que eu adoro o canal deles. Eu acho, assim, que o Thalesinha e Vitel são excelentes, eu gosto demais, eu tento me imitar algumas coisas dele, admito. E eu não vi esse vídeo ainda, vamos ver, eu provavelmente vou pausar e comentar sobre ele, então eu vou colocar o vídeo, ou melhor, eu vou colocar o link do vídeo nos comentários, no comentário não, na descrição do vídeo aqui embaixo, para quem quiser ver o vídeo como um todo, né, sem as pausas e os comentários, ou o Maldraxxus querendo comer o fio do meu microfone. Então vamos lá. Para! Ô inferno! Para de comer as coisas. Pera aí, deixa eu tirar o fio dele aqui. Ele tá atacado hoje, esse gato.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today I want to talk about the jailer. I want to talk about Argus, and I want to talk about what appears at first glance to be the most complicated, convoluted, and flimsy million-year-long 10D genius master plan in the history of fantasy and sci-fi media. Because in patch 9.2, Eternity's End, it is revealed that it was, in fact, the...
Aviso de spoiler bem grande aqui. Pra quem não sabe ainda, no patch 9.9, eu imagino que esse vídeo vai ter muito spoiler. Mas pra quem não sabe ainda, né, no patch 9.2, perdão, é revelado que a alma que quebrou a juíza foi a alma do Argus, quando a gente mata ele em Argus. É isso aí.
Soul of Argus crashing into the Shadowlands that disabled the Arbiter, kicking off all of the events of the expansion. A revelation that has many a WoW lore veteran shaking their heads in disbelief or rolling their eyes so much that they can see their own brain with how far back it means the jailer's plan goes, how many pies it means he has his fingers in throughout World of Warcraft history, and how many iconic and super important moments in that history have, in the eyes of many, been cheapened by the new "the jailer planned it all" implication. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Taliesin, I believe what you're saying, obviously, because you've got a splendid jacket and I'm just pretty easy in that sense.
Eu também tenho uma jaqueta esplêndida, obrigada. Então, acreditem em mim.
But can you give me an example of what you mean, preferably using a popular Reddit post as proof? And you know what? That's fair enough, and also saves me quite a lot of work myself. So yes, to show you exactly what I mean, we need look no further than Comically Lame's popular summary of events entitled, "Let me tell you just how smart the jailer is," which, yeah, I'm pretty much just gonna lift it wholesale. Thanks, Comically Lame. Okay, let's see how galaxy-brained this man had to be. Picture this. You are the jailer, and you have been imprisoned by your college improv team. You have to convince one of the people that banished you to super hell to now be your friend. You know how prisoners casually convince the warden to start working for them? Something like that. Next, you have to convince the warden to start the best spy industry ever to be created. Simple plan.
Tá, isso é uma coisa muito legal. A carta que a gente encontra, né, em Revendreth, nossa, eu já tô confundindo o nome demais, gente. A carta que a gente conta em Revendreth conta a história dos Natrezim, né? E pelo que consta naquela carta, é uma coisa que vai de muitos e muitos e muitos e muitos e muitos milênios atrás na história de World of Warcraft. Então, realmente, essa melhor indústria de espionagem que já existiu, realmente, o Denatrius está de parabéns.
Bababoom. Now, use that spy system to convince beings of pure chaos and void to start spewing onto random planets. Then, use one of them to corrupt a being of pure justice. All easy stuff. This is where the jailer's genius shines through. Have your army, now working for the corrupted Titan, be strong enough to level entire galaxies except this one random planet that has all the stuff on for some reason. Now, keep this Titan, who doesn't know he's working for you, just out of reach of his goal for millennia. The fun part begins. Use the spies to convince one of the Titan guy's allies to create a zombie guy with the express purpose of having a hat and killing and then resurrecting one random elf that will become important later. Make sure the humans win so the bad guys come back later, then have hat guy die so elf lady predictably tries to unalive herself so that she can see big bald man. Make a deal she can't refuse, the apprentice style, and start controlling things in the background even more again. Now here is my favorite part. Make sure the orc that has a few genocidal tendencies goes full sicko mode and must eventually stand trial in Pandaria. This is where you obviously time travel to another dimension so that a random other orc can come back to the main dimension and summon the Titan that you had on the back burner. Your super mega powered death plan hinges on interdimensional time travel. With this once dead orc back in the main timeline, have the Titan guy come to the planet he's just been chilling ignoring for some reason and have his army be good enough at killing, but not quite good enough to win. Now, expect these random people on the planet to do a set of weird choices that has opened a space portal from their solar system to the main base of the bad guy. Since the base is right there, they can fight the literal Titan of Death, and you must now hope they win. Because they have obviously won, the Death Titan breaks this random robot lady and the real game begins. All the other stuff was child's play. Make the elf...
Então, assim, toda essa história é pra gente matar o Argus. Tudo que ele criou foi pra gente matar o Argus. Ok.
Lady Sleeper Agent, all evil now, and inevitably break that hat that you left on the planet for this exact moment. Congratulations, now you can pull a blonde boy into the death zone and use him to get a shiny circle from one person. And that's it, the mortals will give you the rest of them, don't worry. You've done it! You have all the Lego pieces you need to find where you left your super suit and remake, unmake, undo, redo, bless you Gesundheit reality. Now, first things first, this is an awesome post. It's funny, it makes its point, and furthermore, I'm pretty certain that Comically Lame did not intend it to be scrutinized as closely as I'm about to. So I just want to make it clear, I have zero problems with the post or the author's intention. It's a top quality shitpost, and I endorse shitposting 1000%. I don't want to live
Ok. Primeiro, peraí, deixa eu tirar o gato aqui. Para de roer meus fios. Ele rói meus fios quando quer atenção. Foi rápido pra caramba isso, mas ele basicamente pegou todo o plot de crônicas e colocou como sendo um plano do carcereiro. E talvez ele não tenha mexido nos pequenos detalhes, como por exemplo a viagem temporal do Gul'dan, mas no final do dia, né, o plano dele era que o Titã da Morte morresse, que o Argus morresse. Então, talvez ele estivesse preparando tudo isso para tal fim. Talvez ele estivesse realmente esperando que uma alma viesse e fizesse o papel das Sylvanas, não necessariamente as Sylvanas. Talvez ele soubesse que as Sylvanas fossem fazer esse papel. É um tiro longo, mas ok, vamos continuar. E eu concordo com o Talezinho, eu acho que o mundo é melhor porque a gente tem posts de merda. Então, façam seus posts de merda.
in a world where you can't shitpost about the jailer, okay? And I'm not the only one who loves it. As the comments confirm, it really manages to nail exactly the quadrillion IQ meticulous planning and outrageous foresight that the jailer would have had to have possessed, and million-to-one shots he would have to be reliably predicting to make this 17D chess game of a master plan come together. Why didn't he just buy lottery tickets and bribe his way out if he was that lucky? Do you guys not have galaxy brains? Steve Denuta really expects us to believe that this was some meticulously crafted plot. Absolutely no way anyone can predict that. So please understand that in the rest of this video, I am not criticizing this post specifically, but using it as a proxy for a view of the jailer and his overly complex and incredibly far-fetched plan that a huge amount of the player base share. And the thing is, it's wrong. And I don't just mean the details. Any invested lore fan probably spotted a few inaccuracies in that description of events just the first time through, and we will definitely get to those. But no, more importantly, the whole concept of the jailer as the mastermind, pulling the strings behind the scenes the whole time, with every seemingly random and next to impossible happening now being revealed as all part of the plan, is to misunderstand a pretty basic and vital part of what is supposed to have been happening all this time. And obviously I'm going to explain all that. That's what this video is for. But before we do, I think it's very important to clarify. The jailer is not a good villain. So let's be clear, okay?
Concordo nisso.
This video is not a defense of the character of Zoval. I would never make that video for the simple reason that, frankly, the jailer basically sucks. As in, he is just a really boring villain and will definitely go down as one of the worst antagonists of any World of Warcraft expansion. And that's a shame because in many ways the jailer is exactly the kind of big bad this game really needed after the last expansion. One of the biggest weaknesses of Battle for Azeroth, in my opinion, was Blizzard's annoying reluctance to just tell us who the baddie was, and all that unnecessary mystery turned out to be because it was the jailer, with N'Zoth popping in like Venom at the end of Spider-Man 3. He looks mean and unambiguously bad. He's the king of literal hell. He could take your eye out with those nipples. So I had hope for Zoval. A hope that, for me, personally, was entirely dispelled about 25 minutes after Shadowlands launched, and we get to this bit. Because, I mean... This is the most boring, cliche line said by the most boring, cliche voice in the history of video games, no question. Not only is it shit on its own terms, it's the same voice almost every antagonist from every WoW expansion ever has had. Why does Blizzard make every baddie have a booming deep dude voice and make them say shit like...
É verdade, dá pra colocar essa voz em qualquer um dos personagens. Acho que é o filtro, né? Eles devem usar um filtro pra voz que é o mesmo pra todos os vilões de todas as raids que a gente já teve até hoje no WoW.
Never been an Emmett Selch in WoW, you know? It's just a parade of macho double-bass meatheads reading from the same shared copy of My First Final Boss Line for Kids. And it's not like they haven't had the opportunities. Why they didn't keep that silky smooth sinister fish N'Zoth beyond the Ashara Warbringer, I will never know. Because this little guy right here is legitimately the most engaging expansion villain WoW has ever had. So yeah, I kind of switched off from Zoval from then on in, really. And even though he has done cool stuff throughout the expansion, it has never really seemed all that cool to me, because I find him incredibly dull. Sorry, Zoval, you gonna do what? What did you... Oh, never mind, I don't care. My point is, at the end of the day, I don't like the jailer as a baddie. I think he is a big missed opportunity, and he commits the biggest gaming sin of all by just being a bit boring. And honestly, even if he had 10 of those beautiful, alluring nipples, I don't think he'd ever be able to overcome that. I think... Eu tenho que concordar com essa fala dele também. O Carcereiro é um cara que, assim, tinha uma... Ele tinha um potencial de ser um mega vilão. Peraí, eu acho que o som tá muito alto. Deixa eu abaixar um pouquinho aqui. Ele tinha um potencial de ser um mega vilão. Ele tinha um potencial de trazer tudo aquilo que foi listado anteriormente, assim, e fazer um alinhavo lá, juntar tudo isso. Mas a Blizzard pecou no Carcereiro, porque eu não vou nem falar da questão da voz ou da frase do Pitiful Mortal. Ele é raso, o Carcereiro é raso. A gente tem uma história que vem de milhares e milhares de anos anterior ao que a gente existe. E tudo que a gente sabe o Carcereiro quis achar um conhecimento proibido, porque ele queria mudar a realidade, e os amiguinhos dele, ou o grupo de improvisamento da faculdade dele, né, como ele falou aí no vídeo, resolveu banir ele para Shadowlands, né? Então, assim, ele tinha uma capacidade de ser uma coisa muito mais profunda do que ele é. No entanto, a Blizzard manteve ele raso. Manteve ele muito raso. E realmente a Shara tem muito mais profundidade. O peixinho lá que aparece no Warbringers tem muito mais profundidade do que o Carcereiro. Uma vez me perguntaram, por que o Carcereiro é mau? Pô,
Em nenhum momento fica claro a motivação do carcereiro. Em nenhum momento a Blizzard explica, não, porque o carcereiro fez isso e achou que é isso e que é aquilo. Agora eu vou dar um pouquinho de mais atenção aqui. Mas não dá. Aí eu falei, olha, eu suponho que talvez tenha sido alguma coisa similar com o que aconteceu com o Sargeras. Ele tinha um papel como juiz, ele julgava as almas que chegavam na Terra, né, em Shadowlands. E ele viu que a vida não é justa, ele viu que a realidade não é justa, ele testemunhou várias vidas que foram perdidas, que foram desperdiçadas pelo fato da realidade não ser justa. E aí ele resolveu entrar numa cruzada para mudar isso. Só que para ele mudar a realidade, ele precisava dos planos dos primogênitos, que estava no sepulcro dos primogênitos, e isso é um grande tabu, é uma grande proibição dentro do Conselho de Shadowlands, né? E aí, por conta disso, ele foi banido e colocaram outra juíza no lugar. Mas isso sou eu supondo, às vezes nem é isso que aconteceu. Às vezes a Blizzard resolveu que o carcereiro acordou de mau humor um dia e falou, vou detonar tudo isso. E começou essa cruzada dele. A gente não tem essa informação em nenhum momento, a Blizzard deixa bem claro qual é o motivo, né? A gente só sabe que o carcereiro quer mudar a realidade e pelo que a Sylvanas fala, ele quer mudar a realidade porque o sistema é errado, que o sistema é imperfeito. Mas tá. Por quê? Ele é mal porque ele acordou de mau humor, ele é mal porque, sei lá, acabou o café. Sei lá. Vamos continuar.
Most players probably agree with me, and I think something that makes the idea of the jailer planned it all so extra infuriating for a lot of us is this sense that Blizz are trying to cheat a boring character into being interesting by tying him retroactively to a bunch of important past events. Because if every detail of his plan was indeed meticulously laid out by one massive brain, then that's unbelievable enough. But expecting us to believe it's this absolute bozo thinking 20 steps ahead and calling million-to-one shots? Nah. To make basically everything that's happened in Warcraft lore up to this point happen because the jailer planned it, I agree, is incredibly stupid. But here's the thing, he didn't. And you're not supposed to think that he did. How the jailer predicted everything.
Deixa eu fazer uma coisa que tá me incomodando aqui primeiro. Eu vou mudar a posição do meu vídeo aqui, porque eu tô cortando a cabeça nos talherzinhos, eu não quero isso. Mas eu concordo com ele. Eu não acho que o carcereiro tenha planejado tudo isso. Eu acho que foi tudo uma sequência de ocorrências felizes para ele.
Early 2000s, there was a popular hypnotist and magician in the UK called Derren Brown, who specialised in psychological tricks that he would then explain later in detail. He did stuff like predicting the lottery numbers and tricking random people in the street into stealing priceless works of art. But my favourite of all of his shows is one of his least well known. It's called The System, and in it, Derren contacts Kadisha, a single mum from Richmond, quite near where I was born actually, and predicts for her the winning horse in 6 out of 6 races in a row, which she then goes and bets her own money on. And of course, they all win. Something that should basically be impossible. And it's not like it's just picking the favourites every time either. In one race, the winner Derren predicts is the 18-to-1 rank outsider. In another, Kadisha's horse is way out in 3rd place when the 2 horses in front of her just trip over each other and leave the way clear. And the reason I'm talking about this in relation to the jailer's knack for predicting unlikely events should be pretty obvious, right? How can one man with such a bad taste in jackets and facial hair possibly be able to foresee the series of objectively impossible to foresee events that lead to Kadisha backing the winning horse out of 6 out of 6 times? Well, the answer, as I'm sure many of you have already worked out, is that he didn't. In Derren Brown's system, Kadisha isn't the only person he was getting to bet. In fact, for the first of the 6 races, 7,776 people were told to bet on one of the 6 horses running, distributed equally. Only those who were given the winner were then given bets to place on the second race, and so on. So by the end, Kadisha just happened to be the one and only person who was given the winning horse in each race. It was certain to be one of those 7,776 people. The fact that it was her was complete chance. With enough attempts, a series of events goes from being essentially impossible to being almost certain to occur. In a similar way, in the same episode, Brown shows himself tossing a coin 10 times in a row and it landing on heads every time. Another hugely unlikely event, which you would never believe would actually happen if someone told you they were about to do it. Until we learned that Brown and his team actually filmed this poor bastard tossing a coin for over 9 hours until he eventually hit those 10 heads in a row. And it was only that run of 10 coin tosses that were initially shown to us. Again, with enough time and attempts, something that seems impossible actually becomes first incredibly likely and eventually inevitable. And it's a brilliant episode because it shows how our limited perception of an event impacts how likely we think something is to happen. In both these tricks, we were shown two things that were basically guaranteed to happen, but which seemed impossible to us because we weren't shown the many, many failed attempts that it took to get there. It's the same with the jailer's plan. It's a massive mistake to think, as the Reddit thread and everyone who enthusiastically agrees with it does, that the jailer predicted all of the events that led up to us killing Argus and zapping the Arbiter. Just as much as it would be to think that Darren Brown said, hey, I'm going to throw 10 heads in a row, and then just instantly did it. Zovaal was thrown into the maw countless millennia ago. To our human brains, he has had an incomprehensible amount of time to basically throw spaghetti at a wall and see what sticks. Far from making moves on a 7D chessboard, the jailer's story is instead one of taking chances where they come without necessarily knowing how that will benefit him in the long run. And you can imagine that 999 times out of 1,000, the thing he does or the chance he takes leads to absolutely nothing. To suggest that he started with a meticulous master plan and that everything he did and everything that happened under his influence was a preordained step in that plan is silly and also demonstrably untrue. And you can prove that simply by pointing out, A, some of the things that he relies on are literally impossible to predict. Like Sylvanas throwing herself from the one place on Azeroth with a strong enough connection to allow him to contact her. B, some parts of the plan being things that he didn't actually have a part in anyway, like Garrosh eating out to alternative Draenor in the middle of his trial. And C, the fact that a few of the things we know that he planned are shown to not work and are actually dead ends. We may learn in Shadowlands that the power of the Lich King was created by the Dreadlords on behalf of the jailer, but Arthas fails. He gets killed by us and Bolvar takes the helm to totally cockblock Zovaal in that instance. And it's a pretty good question to ask then, isn't it? What did Zovaal actually hope to achieve with making Arthas the Lich King? And if you're making a comedy Reddit post, then the funny, stupidly ridiculous answer is to kill and raise Sylvanas so that she eventually throws herself off Icecrown when the Lich King dies to meet Baldman. But that's not actually true, is it? What was Zovaal's plan in creating the Lich King? Well, it's the same answer to a whole bunch of similar questions that go way back. So let's ask that of the whole IQ 5000 plan, but this time, instead of thinking of the jailer's plan as a 7D chessboard with every move planned out in advance, think of it more like a climbing wall, where you take it one grip at a time, and sometimes the route you take might prove to be wrong, so you have to go back on yourself and try a different way. But that's okay, because you've got time and tremendous upper body strength. So imagine you're the jailer. You get imprisoned by the other Eternal Ones, and you're in super hell, but lucky for you, one of your brothers who put you there is actually quite sympathetic to your cause. Maybe because he shares your passion for going really hard on chess day, maybe because he's also a little bit power hungry himself. But Daddy D was smart enough to not reveal that as everyone was throwing you in super hell. So you've got a friend on the outside. How is that useful? Who knows? But it's definitely better than not having a friend on the outside, right? Your brother also created the Dreadlords as his super spy network, but they turned out to be not all that super because they got discovered and started a war before being banished from the Shadowlands. Now they're out on a shitty planet in the Twisting Nether, but you and Daddy D decide to secretly stay in contact with them. It's better than not having a bunch of shape-shifting spies at your disposal, right? So they spread out over the galaxy, studying and learning and waiting for more opportunities. This whole time, by the way, you're trying other plans to escape as well, which don't work. Pull on threads that don't go anywhere. Take other opportunities which lead to nothing. And then, thousands of years later, this badass Titan turns up, hoovering up demons and imprisoning them. Those spies of yours have lived in the Nether so long that they actually are demons now, and loads of them get put into Sagi's mega jail. Not ideal, definitely not something you would have chosen, but okay, whatever. One day, Sagi comes across some of your spies who are on an old god-infested world soul. Contrary to the Reddit thread, there's no suggestion that the jailer has any influence on the void gods, so as far as we know, they genuinely are trying to corrupt a world soul for their own plans. And before he throws them in his mega prison, they tell him what they've learned, or what they claim to have learned about
Isso aí é interessante. Ele se aproveita da intriga que tem entre as forças. Ele se aproveita desse embate que tem entre as forças do universo, né? Não só de Azeroth, mas do universo. Aquelas forças que a gente vê tanto no Crônicas quanto no Grimório de Shadowlands. E isso eu acho que é exatamente o que falou da questão do mágico, né? Você aposta em milhares de oportunidades até que uma dá certo. Acontece que é aquela sequência de eventos, né? Ele foi para um lado, não deu certo esse daqui, esse aqui, esse aqui, esse aqui, esse aqui. E foi até chegar na situação que a gente está atualmente, né?
Out the void and the old gods, and that makes Sagi scared enough to become evil. I must destroy everything so the void can't have it. Burning Legion Sagi, and release all the demons from his super prison to become his army. So now your spies are an important and influential part of a badass interplanetary apocalypse army. What are you going to do with that, Zoval? Who knows? But hey, it's better than not having agents inside a badass interplanetary apocalypse army, right? Lay low, go along with it, see what happens. Your spies, along with the rest of the Burning Legion, learn about this awesome world soul called Azeroth, which Sagi totally wants to destroy so that the Void can't get it. And yeah, sure, but also if it's that powerful, maybe you could use it somehow? But how? I don't know. Let's sit tight and see. It'll probably turn out to be nothing, just like the thousands of other dead ends that you've hit over the last 100 millennia. Incidentally, Sagi also discovered another world soul called Argus, which he asked your spies, who he foolishly trusts, to help him turn into a big battery to speed up demon respawn times, which your spies do, because A, it's quite an interesting idea for them anyway, but more importantly, B, because now they are in control of a shitting world soul. And okay, it's a tortured world soul, artificially kept in a permanent state of unbirth, but it's still a world soul. And when they ask you, the jailer, what they should do with it, you tell them to do what they're told by Sagi, but also secretly, quietly, fill that world soul with death magic. Why? I don't know, I'm not some 7D chess genius, but I don't have to be to know that obviously having a world soul full of death energy is better than not, right? It's just another opportunity taken to strengthen your hand, even if you don't necessarily know yet how to play that hand. Likewise, when Kil'jaeden asks your spies to make him some cool armor to create a badass avatar on Azeroth, you go along with it. But of course, really, you are the one controlling the new Lich King. Why? Well, it's better than not having a Lich King on a powerful world soul controlling stuff, right? You had a chance to have a Lich King, so you took it. And hey, he genuinely gets very close to taking over the whole planet at one stage, fair play. But unfortunately, those pesky mortals killed him and Bolvar put on the helm to resist your domination and cockblock you forever.
Isso aí é legal. Qual é o papel do Arthas? Eu acho que essa é a grande dúvida, porque assim, quando você encontra o Ner'zhul no Sacrário da Dominação, ele tá claramente sendo torturado. Ele tá sendo torturado porque provavelmente ele é tido como um traidor, ele é tido como um cara que abandonou. E ele realmente abandonou o barco do papel do Lich King. Ele abandonou o barco no sentido de que o Arthas tomou o lugar dele e daí parece que ele está sendo punido, mas se o carcereiro sabia que isso ia acontecer, se o carcereiro sabia que o Arthas ia se tornar o Lich King, se ele mandou o Ner'zhul para Azeroth como o primeiro Lich King, para que depois o Arthas se tornasse o próximo Lich King, por que cargas d'água o Ner'zhul está sendo punido? Por que que ele ele foi colocado nessa situação? Porque o carcereiro acha que ele é incompetente, mas ele fez o papel que o carcereiro esperava, não fez? Então, eu acho que é aquela coisa, ele esperava que o Ner'zhul fizesse o seu papel. Não fez, foi um fracasso, mas você falhou. Ainda bem que tinha outro cara para pegar o teu lugar, porque você foi um bosta. Então, assim, provavelmente é disso mesmo que ele tá falando.
Maybe not forever. Ah, well, that's just another thread that didn't work out. Time to focus on something else. Oh no, wait, because that Banshee Arthas raised in a fit of spite that time has tried to kill herself in the one place on Azeroth with a strong enough connection to, specifically, you, that you can actually get to her before the Kyrian do. And because
eu falo sobre isso, né, no vídeo sobre as Sylvanas, mas só para reforçar, né, depois da morte do Arthas em Cidadela Coroa de Gelo, né, ICC, a Sylvanas, ela pula do alto da Coroa de Gelo e acaba sendo empalada por uma rocha de Saronita. E aí, nessa brincadeira, ela acaba indo parar na gorja, porque é muito próximo o contato, né.
she was once dominated with your magic, you know the pain and anger she feels about everything that happened to her. You know that if you present it right, you might just stand a chance of getting her on side with the whole unmaking the cycle of life and death thing. You just won't tell her the part where you'll end up ruling everything and she'll end up serving you just like everyone else. And anyway, what choice does she really have? It's either that or super hell. So now you have an important faction leader on your team. Not as good as the Lich King, sure, but I'm sure we can do something with it. What exactly? Who knows? But it's definitely better than not having an important faction leader on your side, right? Sometime later, and unrelated to anything you've done, Garrosh escapes to an alternative dimension for the Orc Dads in Space expansion, which ends with alternate Gul'dan opening a big old portal for the Burning Legion to finally destroy Azeroth. Not ideal, because you've got some useful fingers in the Azeroth pie these days. You've just managed to manipulate Sylvanas into her most powerful position yet, and she's busy recruiting more powerful yet very wronged and angry people with a justifiable grudge against the establishment and a desire for change onto Team Jailer. But it wouldn't be the first time one of your threads unravels at an advanced stage. There will be other chances, except there's also a chance that these Azeroth dudes will win. They are pretty badass after all, and if they ended up coming for your Demon World Soul HQ, how long have we been filling Argus with death magic now? 10,000 years? Our Dreadlords became literally demons through exposure to Fel over thousands of years, to the extent that they now go to the Twisting Nether when they die. I wonder if the same change is possible in a Titan World Soul that's been pumped with death magic. Could it possibly have altered it enough to change where a Titan goes when it dies? What's that rubbish new Robot Arbiter gonna do with that? Well, it looks like the Azeroth badasses are going to win, so I guess we'll soon find out. Yes! A Titan World Soul heading to the Shadowlands, and it's disabled the Arbiter! This is it! This is the moment you've been waiting for. Finally, after millions of years, the opportunities you've been taking when they arise finally led to something. Like Kadisha winning every race, or the 10 heads in a row. It seems impossible if you think it is planned that way, because it would be. Darren Brown couldn't have planned when he was going to throw 10 heads in a row. He just knew if he kept trying, that at some point he would. Likewise, the Jailer didn't do X things so that Y things specifically would happen, so that Z things specifically would happen. He just kept taking every chance he got to expand his reach and influence. He kept tossing that coin for thousands and thousands of years until he got 10 heads in a row. The Jailer's superpower isn't having a massive brain or playing 7D chess, it's just having loads and loads of time. He can fail as many times as he likes. He only has to win once. And that's honestly a really cool and interesting trait for a baddie to have, but especially a baddie who literally represents death, because that's literally what death does to all of us. It's an awesome idea, and I really love it, and it's one that is there in the text. It's one of the coolest and scariest antagonist traits that Blizz have ever come up with, and they do nothing with it, because here's the thing, everything I've described is there in the telling of this story, but Blizzard have not presented it well enough at all. And if it never occurred to you that that's how the Jailer has been working, and you genuinely thought it was the 7D chess thing, that's not your fault. It is all totally on Blizz, who took one of the low-key, awesomest enemy concepts they have and just made this. Because the Jailer is a boring 2D character who isn't interesting at all. So honestly, why did I make this video? What does it achieve? I don't know. I guess even if the Jailer is boring, it's better to help people understand what his plan actually was this whole time rather than not, right? It's better to understand what we're critiquing, right? Of course it is. And I'm sure the comments will be full of lively discussion and not a bunch of people calling me a shill for defending Blizzard's terrible writing. Thank goodness for that. But thank you for joining us today. If you like...
Muito bem, então vamos lá. Se vocês quiserem patrocinarem o Talezinho e Vitel, eu acho que eu devo isso a eles, né? Eu tô usando o vídeo deles aqui. O Patreon deles tá aí. E eu vou colocar o link do vídeo aqui nos comentários. Eu achei essa análise fantástica, porque faz todo sentido, realmente. E isso que é legal, porque é o que ele falou. A gente tem um vilão com um poder aí que é além de tudo que a gente consegue imaginar. Ele tem o poder da morte. É aquela fala, eu lembro de ter lido isso em algum lugar, da Chapeuzinho Vermelho. A Chapeuzinho Vermelho, ela tem que escapar do lobo mau todos os dias que ela sai da casa dela. Todos os dias que ela entra na floresta, ela tem que fugir do lobo mau. O lobo mau só precisa conseguir pegar ela uma única vez. A gente foge da morte todos os dias da nossa vida. A morte só precisa acertar uma única vez. A gente vive todos os dias, a gente morre uma vez só. E realmente eles perderam uma oportunidade. O carcereiro foi uma grande oportunidade perdida mesmo. Ele é um personagem que tem um potencial incrível. Ele tinha, né? Vamos combinar. Ele tinha um potencial incrível. Ele tinha uma capacidade de ser realmente o Puppet Master, aquele cara que estava atrás de tudo que estava acontecendo, puxando os fiozinhos. Na mesma ideia, ele ia puxando os fios para ver o que dava. Isso é o que a gente faz com a nossa vida, né? A gente vai fazendo as coisas, a gente cria planos, mas alguns dão certo, outros dão errado. E no final das contas a gente acha, a gente encontra o nosso objetivo, a gente acaba atingindo o nosso objetivo. E que o carcereiro tem uma coisa que a gente não tem, que é tempo. Muito tempo. E eu realmente sinto muito pelo fato de que a Blizzard perdeu essa oportunidade de transformar o carcereiro em um dos principais vilões do jogo, porque ele realmente tem esse potencial, ele tem essa competência, ele tem o poder para tanto, mas cadê a narrativa, né? Igual quando a gente tava falando da Gorja. Todo mundo, eu odeio a Gorja, eu odeio fazer a Gorja. Na época que tinha o olho do carcereiro, que saco fazer a Gorja. E aí eu falei, mas pela narrativa da Blizzard, a Gorja deveria ser um lugar desagradável de acordo com a narrativa da Blizzard, a Gorja deveria ser um lugar ruim, um lugar que você não quer ir, que você não quer ficar. Então, assim, tá funcionando pra narrativa da Blizzard. Só que essa narrativa tá tão discreta, tão escrita dentro das entrelinhas, que se perde. E aí tudo que a gente tem é um mapa que é um saco. Um mapa que é um saco. Eu tenho que formar coisa lá e é um saco formar coisa lá. Mas faltou o storytelling. Realmente a Blizzard ela tá pecando muito no storytelling nessa expansão. Bastante. Que é uma expansão que tinha tudo pra ser uma caixinha surpresa, uma caixinha de Pandora. Porque a gente tá saindo do plano de Azeroth, a gente tá indo pra um plano além de Azeroth, a gente tá indo pro reino da morte. E lá a gente tinha, né, a possibilidade de encontrar explicação, de encontrar resposta para muita coisa que aconteceu, que vem acontecendo em Azeroth, mas que no final das contas não fica explicado, não fica bem explicado, não fica bem entendido. E eu acho que esse foi um dos principais pecados da Blizzard em Shadowlands. Deixar tudo tanto nas entrelinhas que não fica evidente, que não fica claro, que a gente perde, que se perde nas coisas, fica discreto. E é o que aconteceu com o carcereiro. Mas eu concordo que é excelente que... mas eu concordo que, de fato, o carcereiro é um dos melhores vilões em questão de trabalho peitoral. Ele e o Denatus provavelmente faziam academia juntos, né? Belos mamilos, inclusive. O Denatus podia mostrar um pouco mais dos mamilos dele. Mas é isso aí, né? Mamilos não vencem um storytelling ruim, uma narrativa ruim, né? Os mamilos, eles simplesmente servem para serem polêmicos. Bom, é isso aí, né? Eu gostei bastante do vídeo, achei ótimo, achei engraçado, achei excelente a narrativa da questão do plano carcereiro. Concordo com tudo que ele disse, concordo com toda a história do Taliesin. Concordo também que posts de merda são o que faz a internet girar. E é isso aí. Vamos esperar para ver o que o 9.2 vai trazer pra gente, mas até agora, onde eu já vi... Vamos continuar com a mesma narrativa. Não sei se isso é bom ou se é ruim, mas é isso aí. Até a próxima, que os espíritos te acompanhem.